Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next hour. Ukraine says 600,000 left without power after Russian attack on the power grid. Zelenskyy remains hopeful on US proposed peace plan, hints of talks with Washington soon. US prepares military staging ground near Venezuela centered on alleged anti-drug operations, ramps up military activity at their naval base in Puerto Rico. Trump administration halts all asylum decisions for now in the wake of the National Guard shooting in Washington, D.C. Airbus recalls 6,000 flights for immediate repairs, threatening global flight disruption. India's aviation regulator DGCA directs no Airbus to fly until the maintenance issues are resolved. And Cyclone Ditva intensifies over Bay of Bengal after wreaking havoc in Sri Lanka. India extends relief assistance to Colombo. The storm now heads towards Tamil Nadu, Puducherry with heavy rain forecast. First news of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which is nearing to complete 4 long years now. Ukraine says 600,000 people were left without power after Russian overnight attack on their power grid. The attack hit facilities in Kiev and 5 regions across Ukraine. Russian drone and missile strikes hit Kiev early Saturday, killing 1 and injuring 11. Fires broke out as debris fell over residential areas, with rescue teams pulling survivors from damaged buildings. The head of Kiev's military administration said Russian drone and missile strikes hit 6 locations in Kiev. Debris from downed drones triggered fires in residential buildings, with 1 body recovered from the rubble and a child rescued. The attack comes just days after a previous strike had left 7 dead. Further, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said that talks between Ukrainian and US officials on proposals to end the conflict with Russia would take place soon. In the video address, Zelenskyy said senior Ukrainian officials representing the military, foreign ministry and intelligence agencies would participate in the talks on how to end the conflict. Zelenskyy signed a decree to dismiss his powerful chief of staff, meanwhile, on Friday, hours after the close ally had his home searched by anti-corruption agents. Zelenskyy said Andriy Yermak had resigned and that he would consider his replacement on Saturday. Yermak was heading Ukraine's negotiation team for the US-backed peace talks.
The
office of the President of Ukraine will be rebooted. The head of the office, Andriy Yermak, has submitted a resignation letter. Meetings with the American side will take place in the near future.
In its response, Russia said it received the main parameters of the peace framework discussed by the US and Ukrainian negotiators in Geneva, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said on Saturday. Peskov also said Russian President Vladimir Putin is scheduled to meet with Steve Witkoff, US President Donald Trump's special envoy, in Moscow in the first half of next week. He added that Russia remains committed to negotiations on the Ukraine issue, but does not intend to publicly reveal the details of the talks. Earlier, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that the US proposed list of points could form a basis for future agreements, while Ukraine had agreed in principle to the framework agreement, saying that certain clauses still require future discussion. Also, on Friday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said that he will hold talks with the US side in the near future. Indeed, India's Akshay Dongre joins us on the story for more. Akshay, is President Zelenskyy likely to accept President Trump's peace proposal as it stands, or is he likely to reject some part of the proposal?
Well, absolutely. The second point would be more closer to accuracy here because obviously from the past we have seen that under Donald Trump's administration, whenever the talks have come about in the first format as it has been given by the US, it has not been acceptable to Ukraine. Otherwise, the peace plan would have been signed by now because on certain extent. To a certain extent, the US leadership under Donald Trump is more realistic to the realities of this conflict than the Biden administration was. While it had outrightly rejected any siding with Russia, Trump has been talking about Russia alongside Ukraine when it comes to the peace plan. So it has been less acceptable to the Ukrainian leadership than it was than the US points were under Joe Biden. So there will be certain points to be negotiated. Even the US and the Russian side would be knowing about it. So obviously they would have bloated the agreement per se, so that whatever cuts can be made from there doesn't hurt the negotiations much. So let's see how the meeting comes about to take place. But from the looks of it, the signs have not been good for Ukraine because Donald Trump has earlier said in a statement that Ukraine will have to accept the peace formula or it has to continue fighting, knowing that if US pulls out from supporting Ukraine, it won't be for long that a country like Russia, which is much more larger in terms of military, in terms of size, economy, can overwhelm the defenses of Ukraine even further. And it is going to damage Ukraine as well, much more than it has in the past. So it was sort of a threat, but let's see how it plays out. Okay. All eyes on this meeting that is scheduled to take place in the near future.
Okay. How is President Putin likely to respond to President Trump's latest peace proposal?
Well, like Zelenskyy, Putin will also be making some more concessions than the US would be willing to give at this point in time. Even though Donald Trump has spoken positively of Putin, we have seen that not only Trump administration has tried to hurt Russia, but also economically, but also hurt the allies of the Russian Federation. Countries that are doing trade with Russia have also been hurt with the kind of tariffs that the Trump administration has put. So there is no, friendships per se as far as Trump and Russia is concerned. It's only mutually beneficial partnership that Trump envisions for the near future when it comes to rare earth minerals, trade negotiations, trade agreements, as well as economic collaboration, especially given the view that it's not Russia but China that remains prime adversary of the US in this multipolar world right now.
Okay, all eyes on this peace talks that will happen first with the Ukraine and then with Russia, US being at the center of it. Thank you very much, Akshay Dongre, for joining us for now. US Citizenship and Immigration Services Director Joseph Edlow has said that the US Citizenship and Immigration Services has halted all asylum decisions for now. This agency, USCIS, has halted all asylum decisions until the authorities can ensure that every immigrant is vetted and screened to the maximum degree possible. Edlow posted this on social media platform X. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also wrote that a pause has been placed on visas for individuals on Afghan passports. All this comes after the attack on 2 National Guard members in Washington, D.C. just days ago. So an Afghan man accused of shooting 2 National Guard members will be charged with first-degree murder, a U.S. official said on Friday after one of the soldiers died of her wounds. U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Janine Pirro, said that other charges would be filed against the 29-year-old Rahmanullah Lakanwal, who ambushed the soldiers from West Virginia National Guard near the White House on Wednesday. Earlier, Trump described the shooting as a terrorist attack and declared that he would freeze migration from third world countries to the U.S. 2 members of the National Guard were shot and seriously wounded on Wednesday, just blocks from the White House in Washington, D.C. So, United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that the Trump administration has paused visa issuance for all individuals traveling on Afghan passports, asserting that Washington has no higher priority than protecting Americans. This comes days after the US announced an indefinite halt to all immigration requests involving Afghan nationals following a shooting incident near the White House, in which the suspect was identified as an Afghan national. US President Donald Trump made a major intervention into Honduran politics days before the country's presidential election, pardoning a convicted ex-leader and threatening to cut US support if his preferred candidate loses. Hernandez, who led the Central American nation from 2014 to 2022, was accused by US prosecutors of facilitating the import of some 400 tons of cocaine into the United States. He was extradited to the US just weeks after leaving office when the current president, leftist Xiomara Castro, came to power. In a post on Truth Social, Trump reiterated his backing for Honduran presidential candidate Nasritito Asfura of the Conservative Nationalist Party and said that if he doesn't win, the United States will not be throwing good money. You're watching DD India Newshour, still to come on the show. Turkish rescue boats battle blazes on the sanctioned Russia-bound tanker off its northwestern coast. China launches campaign against fire hazards in high-rise buildings after the tragic Hong Kong fire incident. And a climate change protest off Australia's coast forces an inbound ship to abort arrival at a coal port. 11 people charged.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I am Tanvi Taneja. Well, it might be bad news for air travelers this weekend. You may face flight disruptions worldwide as Europe's Airbus ordered immediate repairs to 6,000 of its widely used A320 family of jets in a sweeping recall affecting over half its global fleet, threatening upheaval during the busiest travel weekend of the year in the United States and disruptions worldwide. The setback appears to be among the largest recalls affecting Airbus in its 55-year history and comes weeks after the A320 overtook the Boeing 737 as the most delivered model. At the same time, Airbus issued its bulletin to the plane's more than 350 operators. Some 3,000 A320 family jets were in the air. The fix mainly involves reverting to the earlier software and is relatively simple but must be carried out before the planes can fly again, other than repositioning to repair centers. So airlines from the United States to South America, Europe, India and New Zealand warned that the repairs could potentially cause flight delays or cancellations. India's aviation watchdog DGCA, Director General of Civil Aviation, issued a major safety directive to all airlines operating Airbus A320 family aircraft. Following a global alert from the European aviation regulator, the DGCA ordered that these aircraft must not fly until crucial software or hardware updates are completed. The move comes after a concerning discovery that intense solar radiation could corrupt flight control data mid-air, potentially triggering an unexpected pitch down of the aircraft. Airlines have been told to act immediately, ensuring all mandated modifications are installed before the fleet returns to service. Earlier, Indigo and Air India, the major Indian operators of A320 family aircraft, A320, A319 and A321, which form the bulk of India's narrow-body aircraft fleet. Both the airlines said that they are aware of the notification from Airbus and are implementing the prescribed rectification action. A majority of these aircraft will require the software change, which is likely to lead to brief groundings, as the required changes would take a couple of hours per aircraft. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya is explaining these directives in more greater detail to us. Tapas, first tell us how many flights will be impacted globally and specifically in India due to this decision by Airbus of recalling its A320 family of jets, and by when do you think the problem will be solved?
You have 2 parts in your question. So let me first deal with the first part. The first, globally, it is expected that more than 6,000 flights will be impacted. But the good news is that most of the issue will be resolved very soon, because there is a minor adjustment in the software system that needs to be addressed. Why I'm saying this? Because the problem lies with the elevator and aileron computer system. This is basically what you call the ELAC system, which deals with the fly-by-wire. When we talk about fly-by-wire system, it means that there is no direct connection between the pilot and the plane. And when it comes to lifting of most of the work is done by the computer that handles the lift-off and the movement of the plane in the air. So because there is a bit of a problem when it comes to the plane reaching up certain altitude where there is issue with solar rays impacting those particular circuits. So it was felt that software upgrade which can remove this lacuna in air travel should be done. So as I mentioned, the 6,000 globally flights will be impacted. In India, the number is somewhere in the region of 300, 330, mostly with the Indigo and Air India Express. So we have been given numbers that Indigo has almost 200 A320 planes, out of which 143 has already been upgraded. They believe that by 30th of this month, 6 a.m., rest of the planes will also be upgraded. With Air India, 113 planes have been impacted, they were affected, and out of that, 42 has already been upgraded. We expect the numbers to become, they will upgrade the whole fleet by 30th of this month again. The most affected airline is Air India Express. Out of they have almost 25 affected flights, and out of that 8 flights have been delayed. So that's something that we have been talking about, but they will, as per report, by 5:29 a.m. November 30th, all the planes that I mentioned will be upgraded. Most of the upgradation is in the software, but there will be the old A320 which will require a bit of a hardware upgradation as well. So, but we believe in the next couple of days, by Monday and Tuesday, all the airlines will be upgraded with the new system. So nothing to worry about when it comes to India. But globally, as I mentioned, Airbus is one of the most, A320 is one of the most widely used aircraft all over the world. And it's a Christmas time, it's a December time, it's a holiday time in both US as well as in West European countries. They will be impacted. The effect will be felt most at that particular area. Tanvi.
Okay, and the decision coming from the DGCA, it's lined with the global standards, of course, ensuring safety first.
Absolutely. No, they actually are following the European agency. We've been talking about the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, which actually determines, they actually came up with a report that determines the intense solar and cosmic radiation at high altitude can be an issue. In fact, on October 30th of the particular flight that was moving from Mexico to US, it was impacted and it had to land in Tampa. So and 13 people were injured during that particular flight because of the solar radiation. The flight lost a lot of speed as well as the altitude, which resulted in 13 people getting injured quite severely. So to make sure that the incident doesn't repeat itself and that doesn't happen in other planes, especially in the high altitude area, they have taken, the European agency have taken the decision, and DGCA has been quite forthcoming in making sure that all the flights in India, which has all the airlines which has A320 planes that they have been using, they should adhere to those directives as well. So that's something that we've been seeing, and very one has to say that the DGCA have been quite forthright and quite they started the action quite early and giving the direction to the airlines to speed up the process of upgradation.
Okay, we leave it here. Thank you very much, Tapas Bhattacharya, for explaining to us the story in greater detail. All right, at the Chanakya Defence Dialogue, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh released Digitalization 3.0, outlining the Indian Army's move towards advanced digital and AI readiness. The Digitalization 3.0 is from boots to bytes and towards AI readiness, a publication that showcases 100 digital applications developed for the Army's evolving operational needs. The event also marked the launch of Prakshepan, an advanced military climatology tool created with multi-agency collaboration to support predictions on landslides and avalanches in vulnerable regions. Alongside the indigenous ACOM and AI as a service platform introduced to accelerate AI-based capabilities within the Army systems. Both these initiatives collectively highlight the Army's broader effort to strengthen information superiority, enhance technology-driven decision-making, and prepare for future operational challenges. Turkish rescue vessels rushed to extinguish fire on the Karios tanker after one of the two ships struck by powerful explosions in the Black Sea near Turkey's Bosphorus Strait. The Turkish Transport Ministry rescued boats, spraying large volumes of water onto the blaze, engulfing the 900-foot Karios. Authorities say the explosion and subsequent fire ignited in the engine room of the Karios on Friday. The tanker, sailing under the Gambian flag, was in ballast at the time of the incident. A second tanker, Virat, also caught fire following the blasts. Investigations into the cause of the explosions remain underway, with no casualties reported so far. On to Hong Kong now, where police officers from the Disaster Victim Identification Unit arrived at Wang Fuk Court in Tai Po on Saturday, following the massive fire in the residential buildings that claimed at least 128 lives. The death toll is likely to rise further still, with 200 others still unaccounted for days after the tragedy. Meanwhile, the Independent Commission Against Corruption said a total of 8 individuals were arrested, including an engineering consultant, a scaffolding subcontractor, and an intermediary. The fire broke out on Wednesday, quickly spreading to 7 of the 8 32-story buildings, wrapped in bamboo scaffolding, green mesh, and foam insulation during the ongoing renovation work. Meanwhile, China launched a nationwide campaign targeting fire hazards in high-rise buildings as a precaution to prevent similar incidents. A climate protest of Australia's east coast forced an incoming vessel to turn back from the port of Newcastle on Saturday. A ship approaching the port of Newcastle was redirected on Saturday after climate protesters disrupted access to the waterway. Authorities in New South Wales said 11 individuals were detained and charged with marine-related offences following the action. The Port of Newcastle is one of Australia's largest coal export terminals and the biggest bulk shipping port on the country's east coast. Australia continues to depend heavily on coal for its electricity generation. The country is also one of the world's largest coal exporters. Pope Leo visited Istanbul's famed Blue Mosque early on Saturday on the third day of his visit to Turkey. It was the first time the American Pope, elected in May as leader of the world's 1.4 billion Catholics, visited a Muslim place of worship since taking over from his late predecessor, Francis. The Blue Mosque is one of Istanbul's main tourist attractions, with 6 minarets and a roof of cascading domes. Its interior lined with vibrant blue Iznik tiles. With such a highly symbolic gesture, Pope Leo follows in the footsteps of Pope Benedict, who visited the site in 2006, and Pope Francis, who did the same back in 2014. And next we take a look at other stories making news around the world. North Korea's capital Pyongyang has opened the Pingcheon passenger station, a new riverside terminal along the river Taedong. Officials say it was designed to give passengers scenic river cruises while connecting them to key sites, including the Mayday Stadium and Songnim City. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has married his longtime girlfriend Jodie Hayden, becoming the first sitting leader in the country to wed while in office. The ceremony took place in the garden of the Lodge, his official residence in Canberra, with close family and friends present. And Germany's Nuremberg's historic Christmas market opened on Friday with its traditional ceremony led by the Christ kind, the angel-like figure said to bring Christmas gifts. Visitors packed the market square as locals celebrated a cherished tradition. International tourists were also among the crowds. First recorded in 1628, the Christ Kindles market marks the official start of the Christmas season. You're watching DD India News. Are still to come on the show. An expert take on US-Venezuela tensions over action by Washington on alleged drug trafficking cartels in the Caribbean.
For the longest time, we treated the Earth's resources as endless. But now the real challenge is to rethink how we use what we already have, because how we manage the environment's resources will dictate our chances of survival.
He applied finely crushed basalt rock on 2 of his 4 fields and says the difference is clear to see.
It's like a window of opportunity. For every hour we are working with this project.
The pumped groundwater is first filtered. Then it goes into a tank and is filtered again. After that, it is collected in this tank where people can access it.
We have been making handicrafts from banana plants for quite some time now. Currently, we produce around 30 products.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I am Tanvi Taneja. On to the Caribbean now. US military activity has surged at the former Roosevelt Roads base in Puerto Rico, with F-35 fighter jets, drones and Marines deployed as part of a wider operation targeting drug trafficking near Venezuela. Now, amid these growing tensions with Venezuela, the latest activity followed sightings of a CH-53E Super Stallion helicopter, while an Air Force AC-130 gunship also landed at the facility, which has become a key hub for regional operations. Officials framed the operations as anti-narcotics efforts aimed at Venezuelan-linked trafficking networks, but the sheer scale of this deployment, including the naval strike groups and surveillance assets, has raised regional alarm. Venezuela has responded with defensive military mobilization, warning against any action that threatens its sovereignty. On Thursday, President Donald Trump said that the United States would very soon take action to stop suspected Venezuelan drug traffickers, even on land, although reportedly US President Trump spoke with Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro last week and discussed a possible meeting between them in the United States. And we are now joined by Sushil Kumar Singhal, former senior diplomat, to understand what is actually happening in the Caribbean. Welcome, Singhal ji, to DD India. Well, President Trump has said that in order to destroy drug trafficking networks in Venezuela, efforts for strikes on land will be starting very soon. In your view, why is such an action on land being considered necessary?
Well, the President Trump feels that Venezuela has become a major hub of drug traffickers, and they are supplying drugs. Venezuela has become a conduit to supply drugs to USA, and he feels that he has a right to strike on these cartels, which is named them Cartel de los Sols. I know it was a very interesting name which has been given, because what the people are saying that it signifies that military officials of Venezuela, because they have insignia of sun on their side, so it's implying that these military officials are involved with the narcotic smugglings, though no evidence has been presented. So that is a legal aspect which I can talk later. But at the moment, what he has done, what the President Trump has done, or the US government has done, they have declared this cartel to be late November, recently last week, I think they have declared them to be a foreign terrorist organization, apart from the narcotics dealers or suppliers, which has given them more legal, political, and military options, because US has different laws which take care of these requirements. And under the garb of these laws, USA has been attacking in the territorial water of the Venezuela and international waters on the vessels which are supposedly carrying narcotics. And so far in last November year only, about 21 attacks have been carried out, and 85 people have died, whether they are smugglers or they are fishermen or ordinary people. Nobody knows, because USA has not given any evidence. So the feeling is that the international norms are not being followed. And now President Trump is willing to, or at least is stating that, is willing to take it to the land, which I have my doubts, because given the reservation that the US government has on boot on the grounds, whether he will carry it out, if in fact or not, but if he does that, it will be a major escalation. And Venezuela, though it's militarily no competition with the US government, but I'm sure they will also take some defensive measures, which may not be in the interest of the US government in long run.
So how do you think Venezuela would react? What kind of defensive posture is it going to put across Washington's massive fleet, and how far it would ratchet up US-Venezuela tensions?
Well, if it happens, because Venezuela, of course, as I said, there's no comparison when it comes to the might of the USA and Venezuela. They're very small. But When you are attacking on ground, if the on ground attack happens, in that case, Venezuela is capable of inflicting damage to USA. Maybe they will not do the direct confrontation, but they have other tactics, maybe the guerrilla form, because they know the terrain. Americans, whatever they can claim, they do not know the terrain well as the Venezuelans know. So they have the advantage. And we have seen in asymmetric war, be it in Gaza or other places, or in Afghanistan for that matter,
Yes.
that the big countries have suffered very heavily with the hands of at the hand of these small armies. And they're not even armies in Afghanistan, but Venezuela is a well-equipped army, so they can inflict quite a damage. They may be defeated, I mean, in the long run, but they can cause damage which will be unsustainable for USA, because USA will not be willing to take the losses, this kind of losses. So, in my view, I think the US will just threaten, will not actually go for it, because he has already offered the olive branch that we can have a conversation in Washington, and that seems to be the objective.
Okay, that's an interesting point. In your view, how far would the current US actions in the sea and those on land being actively considered prove effective in curbing drug trafficking, which is an enormously profitable criminal activity?
Given the geography, I do not think that USA by force can stop the smuggling, because as you rightly said, the market is so big in USA, attraction is so margin of profits are so high. These, if there are cartels, they will be willing to take losses, and still they make profit because the margin are so high. So this action in long run, I don't think they will be able to. The US will be able to achieve objectives. Its objective, they have to have a cooperation with the concerned government. Then only they can have a success. But unilateral actions will not help in achieving their objective. In fact, some experts are talking that it's not merely the intention of the US is not merely limited to this attacking the drug cartels. They have a much larger objectives.
Yes,
including the massive reserves of the oils and other resources in Venezuela and Latin American countries. So I don't know how much is true, but this is also a conversation which is going on.
Yes. Why has it become so important for President Trump to curb drug trafficking allegedly emanating only from Venezuela? You have spoken briefly about it, but is regime change also on his mind?
Well, yes, certainly, because he does not. He has shown his contempt for the president, which is Nicolas Maduro, who is elected head of government, whether you like it or not. But he's elected by the people of the Venezuela. So one should respect that. But he has claimed that he is in cahoot with the drugs cartels, and as I said, the name also indicate that implies that their defense military officials are involved, and so he is very keen. He is interested. President Trump wants a government in Venezuela which is favorable to his doing. I'm using very loosely this term "doing," and that's whom he likes. So he's by these actions taking directly against the territory, the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of a country. He's trying to undermine the present government of Venezuela and try to show that is a weak and is in cahoot with the drug cartels. Though no evidence, I'm repeating, no evidence has been
yes.
No inquiry has been done. So it is showing the contempt for the international law also in this manner.
Yes, contempt for international law. As far as US is concerned, according to US media portals, the US military conducted a follow-up strike on a boat in the Caribbean that it believed to be ferrying drugs, killing survivors of an initial missile attack. So do you think pressure is going to build up within the US to release evidence as far as these drug trafficking operations are concerned?
I'm sure that not only in the USA but even the international, because most of the countries, be it Russia, China, and other countries, even the international organization UN, there is a voice. There is a demand that the evidence should be brought out, because just saying. I'm sure. I'm hope, and I'm sure. Hope against hope that USA has the credible evidence with them, because they have a vast network of resources on which their intelligence would be based. But I think it is important, going to be very important for the credibility of the US government to bring out, to open up, to show that evidence which is available with them, to ensure, to show that the attacks are really against the drug cartels, not for any other objectives. So, I'm sure this pressure will build in USA as well. In US Congress also already demand is being made, and so far, of course, President Trump has been able to negate it, to bear it. But I think in future, the way things are going on in USA, I think the pressure will be on.
Of course, a lot also depends on the meeting, possible meeting lined up between Maduro and President Trump. We leave it here for now. Thank you very much, Sushil Kumar Sehgal for joining us on DD India and giving us your great analysis on the subject. All right, let's move on now. 25th November 2025 was marked as a significant cultural and civilizational milestone in the history of India, as on this auspicious day, the main construction work of the Ram Temple was formally completed in Ayodhya, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi hoisted the sacred Dharma Dhwaj saffron flag atop the temple's spire. This religious ceremony turned to be a magnificent symbol of India's enduring spiritual heritage, a testament to centuries of unwavering faith and cultural resilience. A report.
Ayodhya city of northern India once again witnessed a golden chapter of history on 25th November. The saffron flag was ceremoniously hoisted at Sri Ram Janmabhoomi temple with the sound of conch, chanting of mantras and chants of Jai Shri Ram. The entire Ayodhya echoed with devotion and enthusiasm. This is not just a religious ceremony, but a glorious celebration of India's soul, faith and belief. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, a unique chapter of the country's cultural history has also been added in Ayodhya, which is the Sapt Mandir complex, a grand symbol of India's spiritual tradition and social harmony. For the first time in the country, the Sapt Mandir has given place to those great personalities who were not only associated with the story of Lord Ram, but were living messengers of social harmony, equality and unity. This inclusive thinking is the true essence of Ram Rajya, and the same inclusive policy is the guiding mantra of Prime Minister Modi's efforts as well.
हमारे राम भेद से नहीं, भाव से जुड़ते हैं। उनके लिए व्यक्ति का कुल नहीं, उसकी भक्ति महत्वपूर्ण है। उन्हें वंश नहीं, मूल्य प्रिय है। उन्हें शक्ति नहीं, सहयोग महान लगता है। आज हम भी उसी भावना से आगे बढ़ रहे हैं।
Maharshi Valmiki, who rose from the marginalized section of society, wrote the world's greatest scripture, Ramayana. He proved that knowledge is attained through devotion, not birth. Maharishi Vashisht, the guide of righteousness, ethics and balance, gave Sri Ram the fundamental principles of ideal governance and justice. Maharishi Vishwamitra renounced luxury and became a sage from a king. He gave the inspiration that with penance and determination, even the impossible becomes possible. Maharishi Agastya, who guided Lord Sri Ram and connected northern and southern cultural streams, was the bridge of harmony and balance. Nishad Raj, a supreme example of friendship and equality beyond social barriers, proved purity of heart to be the highest truth. Mata Shabri, the invaluable message of love and devotion, whose tasted berries were accepted by Sri Ram, like a mother's affection. Devi Ahilya, redeemed by the touch of Sri Ram, proved that a second chance's life is always possible.
यहाँ सप्त मंदिर बने हैं, यहाँ माता शबरी का मंदिर बना है, जो जनजातीय समाज के प्रेम भाव और आतिथ्य परंपरा की प्रतिमूर्ति है। यहाँ निषादराज का मंदिर बना है, ये उस मित्रता का साक्षी है जो साधन नहीं, साध्य को, उसकी भावना को पूजती है। यहाँ एक ही स्थान पर माता अहिल्या है, महर्षि वाल्मीकि है, महर्षि वशिष्ठ है, महर्षि विश्वामित्र है, महर्षि अगस्त्य है और संत तुलसीदास है। राम लला के साथ साथ इन सभी ऋषियों के दर्शन भी यहीं पर होते हैं। ये मंदिर हमारी आस्था के साथ साथ मित्रता, कर्तव्य और सामाजिक सद्भाव के मूल्यों को भी शक्ति देते हैं।
The construction of Sri Ram Temple is not merely an effort to restore a cultural identity, but a history of everyone's contribution for a larger cause. The journey of Ram Temple was not only completed with sacrifice, penance and struggle, but also with everyone's participation, efforts and resolve. This temple is a symbol of India's character, where harmony, equality and unity are the soul of Ram Rajya. Ram Temple, the glory of the past, the inspiration of the present and the guiding light for the future. This temple says, when society works together, the nation achieves greatness. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the creation of a new India is not merely a development campaign, but a resolution for harmonious society, equality and respect for all. Bureau Report, DD India.
Sri Lankan President Anurakumara Dissanayake has declared a state of emergency to respond to the widespread devastation caused by Cyclone Ditva as the death toll climbed to 123, with more casualties feared. According to disaster officials, at least 130 people remain missing across several districts affected by severe flooding, landslides and structural collapses triggered by the cyclone's passage. Search and rescue operations are continuing despite heavy rain, damaged road networks and prolonged disruptions to power and communication services. The declaration of emergency will issue special regulations to expedite relief, rescue and rehabilitation efforts. It also enables authorities to mobilize essential services. Landslides have been reported across several areas as continuous heavy rain triggers severe ground instability. India has expanded its emergency assistance under Operation Sagar Bandhu. A special aircraft carrying humanitarian aid received by the Sri Lankan Air Force early this morning, with another flight due shortly. This follows relief already handed over by INS Vikrant and INS Udayagiri yesterday. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also expressed condolences and reaffirmed India's commitment to supporting Sri Lanka as conditions due to Cyclone Ditwa's impact deteriorate. Our Colombo correspondent Ahmed Moin Faruqi joins us with the latest on the impact of Cyclone Ditwa. Dr. Moin, of course, the cyclone has left widespread devastation in Sri Lanka, and it has now passed the island nation. A word on what next is planned up for the rescue operations. Has power grid of Sri Lanka been affected? We saw these powerful visuals on our screens a while ago. Give us the latest.
Good day to all of you. But you see, the thing is that, of course, the cyclone has crossed the Sri Lankan land boundaries, and it has exited earlier this afternoon. But the fact of the matter is that rains are still continuing in various parts of the island. In Colombo today, we are not having much rain. In fact, right now you can see behind me there's hardly any rain present here. But still in many parts in the northern part of the island, there are reports of rain which are still hitting hard in the island. In addition to that, the trouble is that for the last 3 to 4 days, there had been consistent and relentless rain, which has caused loosening of ground in various places. This has resulted in several massive landslides, which will lead to further, crisis with regard to people getting stuck under the rubble, and so therefore the rescue as well as the rehabilitation and relief measures will have to be strengthened further. So therefore, earlier today, President Dissanayaka has announced a state of emergency, which will enable the government to ensure that the rescue, relief and rehabilitation can go ahead without wasting time, without wasting for any further approvals for the financial matters, so they can easily deploy the emergency manpower. While this is happening, I just have to add one more thing here, that the Indian assistance that has come today in the form of 2 aircrafts, which brought about 21 tons of humanitarian assistance, that has been handed over to the Sri Lankan forces. That is one. Secondly, the INS Vikrant and INS Udaygiri, they had handed over some assistance material yesterday. And today, the helicopters which were on board the INS Vikrant, they have already taken off. They are conducting sorties to help and identify and rescue people who are stuck in various distant and remote places. So this is a huge assistance in the form of the humanitarian aid that India has assisted through the Operation Sagar Bandhu. So these are very, very powerful statements that have been made by India with regard to extending its assistance at a time of crisis to Sri Lanka in the neighborhood. So several things are happening at the same time, while at the same time we have to also remember that the cyclone is now moving northwards towards the Indian eastern coast. So I'm sure although the relief and recovery would happen here, there will also be a trail of the devastation that has to be looked forward to, and of course our Indian forces will definitely take care of. Indian authorities will take care of mitigation wherever possible in India. Tanvi.
Thank you very much for all those details. Ahmed Moin Faruqi reporting from Colombo, Sri Lanka. Moving on now, the 56th edition of the International Film Festival of India, IFFI, concluded with a grand closing ceremony on Friday. At the 56th IFFI edition, actors Rajat Kapoor, Deepti Naval and Revati walked the red carpet for their film Raat Akeli Hai. In an exclusive conversation with TD India, the actors spoke about the film, their creative journey, praising the platform of IFFI for showcasing diverse cinema.
Many stars walked the red carpet during the closing day of International Film Festival of India. We had an exclusive conversation with many of them, including the star cast of Raat Akeli Hai. Let's take a listen to them. We have with us Mr. Rajat. Sir, first of all, many congratulations to yet another film. What do you think about IFFI and how important it becomes a platform when we talk about yet another movie of you being released here, premiered here?
IFFI is a great idea, and it's been there for more than 50 years. It's amazing that a festival has continued for these many years, and it's a great platform for everybody who works in independent cinema, who wants to look at cinema as an art. It's been a phenomenal platform.
Ma'am, when we talk about you coming at IFFI along with Deepti ma'am, Revati ma'am, both of us are here. What do you think about, making a comeback among the new and the old stars?
There's never been a time out, so it's not a comeback as such. But this is the first time a film of mine in which I've worked is premiering, and extremely happy about it. Really honored.
And ma'am, what do you think about the changes that Indian cinema has seen, the years of transformation?
Things are different in a good way and also a little bit bad way, So I can't praise everything, but it's a very exciting time to be working as an actor, because there's lots happening. There are experiments in subject matters, and earlier they used to say, oh, we can't make this subject because chalega nahi. So there's a lot of opportunity now. So it's an exciting time. I'm happy to be still around.
Thank you.
You're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sporting action. The Iranian Football Federation said that they will boycott next week's draw for the 2026 FIFA World Cup in the United States to protest the limited allocation of visas to their delegation. The United States has long-standing strict visa restrictions on Iranians. The federation said that the US had granted visas to 4 members of the Iranian delegation, including head coach Amir Ghalenoe, but had not granted a visa to Iranian Football Federation President Mehdi Taj. Iran described the US action relating to the December 5th draw in Washington, D.C. as unsportsmanlike. Iran secured qualification for the World Cup in March, sealing a 7th appearance at the tournament and the 4th in a row. Indian men's hockey team thrashed Canada 14-3 in the last league match of the Sultan Azlan Shah Cup in Ipoh city of Malaysia to qualify for the final. India put up an absolute masterclass, storming to a remarkable victory over Canada in a relentless display of attacking hockey. Defender Jagraj Singh was India's leading scorer with 4 goals. Abhishek, Amit Rohidas and Rajinder Singh scored 2 goals each, while Selvam Karte, Nilakant Sharma, Sanjay and Dilpreet Singh chipped in with 1 apiece. Canada fought back with 3 goals, but India's firepower was simply overwhelming. The Indian team, who returned to the tournament after a gap of 6 years, became the first team to qualify for the final on Sunday. The tournament, which featured 6 teams in a round-robin format, will see the top 2 teams battle it out in the summit clash. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. I'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. From all of us here in New Delhi, thank you for watching. Namaskar.